So let me share. So once more, my belief is that we are well wherever we are. I know it's a holiday, but it's good that you have agreed to be in class today, this morning. I am grateful for that. Today, from where we reached last week, we asked ourselves a question: must we always have the free forces of demand and supply dominating and determining and even controlling the price of a commodity in the market? In some instances may call for some government's intervention so that the price of the commodity can be determined and set by the government in the country. Of course, it has to be a good cause or a good reason as to why the government's intervention will be necessary for the price to be set and controlled in the society through the government's intervention. So we look at price controls, and we'll also look at the opposite of it, which is actually now moving away, which we call the decontrol by the government. You see what's the difference between the price control and also price decontrol as we go back now to the free forces of demand and supply dominating in the market for a commodity. Price controls is not a natural thing happening in the market for a commodity. It is artificially imposed by the government, but it is not for every other commodity in the market. It has to be for, as I've said, a good reason, and therefore for selected commodities we may find such an intervention being okay or necessary in the country. And again, we hear of there has been a law that has been passed in the parliament discussing on matters to do with, for example, education, anything else that the government may consider to have a price set, like we have heard of this many, many times, unga price, like when there is an issue in the country, the members of the parliament would congregate and discuss about an issue that is there in the country. And when they agree, this is passed in the parliament and becomes like a thing to follow. I wouldn't call it a law because sometimes it may be for a short maybe period of time, but in some instances, it may even become a bill which may run for many, many years in the country. So price control by definition is a government's intervention or action to artificially, look at this, artificially impose prices on certain goods and services in an economy through its registration. Through its registration, that is why I'm saying the law has to come in and, of course, agreed upon. This is when we'll say the price of this commodity will be like this in the country, maybe for this period of time. When the government now sets the price, and I want you to take this one carefully. When the government has set the price of the commodity in the market and it is passed, we can't change that. Therefore, such a price set and controlled by the government tends to be fixed. Look at the keywords. That tends to be fixed or constant. Another word that I like using here, they tend to be flat. And notably, look at this, remains unchanged, remains the same, okay, regardless of any economic force. Whether demand will be high or supply being high in the market, it doesn't matter. Those forces cannot change the price of the commodity once it has been determined by the government. It's going to remain the same. We have two types of price controls. One is what we call a maximum price, also called the price ceiling, and the minimum price control, the price floor. Okay, assuming you're in a house that has got, let's say, some floors like our LT classes or the TC classes, and assuming we are in the second floor and that would want to go to the third floor. There's no way to which we can penetrate the ceiling of the second floor to join the third floor. There's a limit. And so we have to go maybe use the staircase. If there's a rift, maybe we go by that. You are told you cannot go beyond this point. This is the highest that we can go. This is what we call the maximum price control. When such a price is set, we are going to see what are the implications. Assuming we are still on the second floor and that we now want to join the first floor, okay? It is not possible to penetrate through the floor of your second floor to join the first floor. There's a minimum limit again set, okay? And this is the lowest point to which you are not allowed to sell the product in the market. We are going to go to see the implications of that in the market for the commodity. Before we do that, I paused and I asked myself, what are maybe some of the reasons I may not have exhausted this? What are some of the major reasons that we may have for the government to consider a price control for a certain commodity in the market? There are quite a number of reasons, but I've picked the major ones that I felt all of us, we can be able to even resonate this well with our economy on what we see happening sometimes in the market for some commodities. Remember, we have said certain goods and services, not all of them. One is for consumer protection. And let me give an example. Apart from nowadays when we are seeing a lot of hiccups in the education sector, for many, many years, the education price, which I would call the school fees, the tuition fee, yeah, because that is what we call the education fee. These are the fees items that are added. It depends on the institution, but the tuition fee is what we recognize as the price of education, okay? It has, in the universities, it has always been determined by the government. And for so many, many years, from the government side, it has always been 16,000 per year, which now translates to universities are supposed to learn for two semesters, not trimesters, as per the Q requirements by the government. So that is 8,000 per term. And it has been there for so many years. Why do we consider to set a price for education as such a fee, which now makes it affordable for most people, including the vulnerable groups in the society? We know Kenya is a developing country. Most people earn below even $1 a day, yeah? So low-income earners, and of course the mid-low-income earners are also categorized in this case. They may not afford education as per. If you're to think of how much you are charged in a private university, why is it that we are not so many in a certain session? It's because of the fee issue. Most people may not afford that. So for consumer protection, especially for necessities, or for most of the commodities that are now going to be essential, yeah, for the society members, the government has to intervene so that that commodity can be affordable by most people in the society. Number two is for producer protection. Not always that the producer on his own fighting the demand and supply forces in the market would be able to make a good income. The government intervention sometimes may be necessary, where the setting of the price may make that producer generate some income that is likely to be higher, more or less compatible with the cost of living in the society. This has been common, but I don't know, with this government, things have really changed. For sometimes we could have the government of Kenya, of course, supporting the farmers, especially in the Rift Valley region, where because of a good harvest, and you remember I asked you what are some of the issues that as producers of the agricultural products we may go through, and one of it was about storage. So once the farmer harvests the maize, he may not have that lasting for so long. And the government used to intervene, buy the maize at a certain price, which could guarantee this producer good income, and store in the silos, yeah? And now that is what we hear of being given to the people, maybe as relief food, or sometimes going to the market at an affordable fee to the consumers. Why are we protecting this producer? Remember, this producer is a key person in regards to food security in our country, and therefore production of the commodity being essential, it also needs to be protected. To control the negative prices, the negative effects of the high prices that we may call inflation in the country could also be a good reason for us to consider the price controls. Inflation is a period of time where we'll find the prices are persistently increasing in the market for the commodity. Okay, for example, last year, was it last year or last year but one? I think last year but one, we could have the fuel price going up like every other month, and most commodities in the market, their prices were very high. They would increase this month. You find in the market, the price has been increased to this price. Tomorrow again, the price has further increased. That persistent change in the price of the commodity in the market is what translates to inflation in the country. As much as we don't like prices going up in the market, I myself as a consumer would rather see my prices, the prices of what I buy going down other than increasing. However, I'm forgetting about the positive change that inflation may cause for our growth and development in the country to be registered. We'll talk more about inflation in our macroeconomics class. For now, just note that when prices are high in the market, remember, not everybody who can afford such high prices. The intervention may bring in now the affordability because the consumer is robbed of his purchasing power. Your basket is no longer the same as yesterday, yeah? I doubt if I give you 1,000 shillings note, you'd be able to fill in the basket that probably the same 1,000 was filling in like some months ago or even last year. There has to be maybe some difference at the end of the day. Preferably, this consumer going for the same products, yeah? You may find that, like in our country, the prices have changed, and as a result, the basket reduces. So, such effect to the consumer may even make him not to consume a lot, and we know the support system that the consumer brings in to the production process. If you didn't come to KCA to study economics, I have no job. What does that translate to? Where I normally buy my products, I'll not go to that shop. That business person closes down. Maybe he has hired 2 more people, they go home with no job. And that is a cycle that kills growth and development in the country. That's why support to our investments, producers who are there in the market, needs to be protected for them to stay, because they contribute a lot positively towards the productions and development in our country. So the negativity that the inflation may cause to our society, that hammer is what we want to control. It is not everything about inflation. that needs to be fought, because we also have some goodies, I'll talk more about that may come alongside inflation. And again, not every type of inflation that we may say it's harmful. It depends on the percentage rise on the price of the commodity in the market. Point number next is that we have got a lot of relationships that we have created, quite a number of those, between ourselves as a country and the rest of the world. We are relating with Japan at some point, Korea, and ourselves. We have been into business for so long in many areas or different products. Chinese market has been like it is in our own country nowadays. And therefore, when it comes to us relating with the rest of the world, we need to pay attention to what's happening between what we receive from other nations and what we normally pay for to maybe obtain goods and services from other nations. What's the difference in between? And this leads us to another discussion that to put it in a more weight, again in the macroeconomics class, which we call the international trade. There's an aspect of the balance of payment that I'll talk deeply in that topic. For now, what is balance of payment? And this is our difference that we'll create between what we are receiving from other nations and what we are paying to those other nations. The due receipts and the due payments difference becomes the balance of our payment. And here we need to think deeper in terms of what are the components of the BOP, and one of it is the exports and the imports. How do we promote our local products so that we avoid a lot of importation? And how can that one help us now to fight what we call a deficit balance of payment? We want to correct that. And this is a common case to most developing countries, including ours. We pay more than what we are receiving from the rest of the world. The contributing factor heavy is on what we import. So how would we support our local people so that when they are producing, productions will thrive locally, and you turn away from the imports and we turn to our local productions? And that way we can be able to fight the negativity that is coming alongside our BOP to make it favorable. We all know, I'm on point number next, that there is a huge difference, like in our country, between the wealthy people and the vulnerable groups. The difference between the rich and the poor has always been a wide gap in our country for many years. How can we shorten that? How can we reduce the gap? Purity, you have something? I can see you are notating.
Sorry.
Okay. James, kindly mute. So the difference between those two groups of people in our country needs to be shortened by ensuring that the essentials, the commodities that we know, of course, touching on the basic needs, can be affordable to many people in the society. And lastly is for price stability. How does it feel, when you go to the market and the price has been changing? Like every other day you go to the market, the price is all different from yesterday. It may not anchor well with somebody who is trying to come up with a stable budget for his or her consumptions in the country. Like when I'm planning for, let's say, my family spendings, how do I do this with unstable prices? May be difficult. Including your parent now planning for your education, how much would I have spent at KCA, say within this period of time when my son is doing CPA? If the school fees keeps on changing now and then, that plan may be destabilized and may not anchor well with somebody who is, for example, trying to save on the basis of achieving something in the future. We remember our point that we emphasized up there. Prices that are set by the government are flat, they are constant, they are stable. They are not supposed to change. We say they're even fixed. And no matter what the force, those prices remain the same. So if we know price is going to be like this for this year, we can plan. And that price stability can help in many, many ways when the planning has already happened. Let's now dive deeper into the understanding of these two types of price controls, and we'll start with the maximum price control. And I give a scenario of our floors, and we say this is also called the price ceiling. I hope you're still together, are we? Class? You can confirm on the chat if we cannot talk.
It's okay.
Okay. What is maximum price control by the government? As I said, this is the highest that we can go, and therefore, when the government fixes that price, we are not supposed to go beyond it. This is a price usually fixed by the government on a certain commodity, be it a good or a service, above which we are not supposed to go beyond it. We can't be allowed to sell that commodity above such a price. But where do we fix it? This is very, very important. Usually because this price was too high as felt by the government, we will come and fix it below the equilibrium price so that it is now going to benefit like the low income earners. It becomes affordable in the economy. Through illustration, let me reduce this a bit so that it can fit in one page like that. So this is a price that we'll call the maximum price. Suppose we call it P1. Okay. And this price we have said we'll come and fix it below the equilibrium price. Why? Because the government has felt that it is too high for most people in the economy. So we now come in and set this price. And I want you to pay attention. We come here and below the equilibrium somewhere, we set the price we are calling price P1. And this price, as you can see, has automatically caused something to happen in the market. The law of supply states what? The lower the price, the lower the quantity offered in the market for sale. The lower the price to the consumer, I'm very happy, I'll demand a larger quantity of the commodity. There occurs a difference between demand and supply, which we call the excess demand. You can see, as I've demonstrated in this diagram, the excess demand. The Q4, Q1 units, that difference becomes the excess demand. I want somebody to tell us, because of this excess demand, what do you think will happen to the market of this commodity? Now that there exists the excess demand, what will be the implications of this particular excess demand?
There'll be shortage of.
Yes? Somebody is talking?
Yes, there'll be shortage of supply.
There'll be a shortage of the commodity, which is of course demonstrated by this excess demand. What else do you think will happen? Plus? Anything else that you feel is likely to occur in the market for this commodity because of that excess demand? What is going to happen because of the presence of the excess demand to the market of our commodity? That is my question. You can even do the chart if we can't talk. Class, I'm waiting for your response. Nothing. Okay, remember we said it doesn't matter what is going to happen to demand or even supply of the commodity in the market. As much as the price has been set by the government, that price will continuously prevail in the market for the commodity, okay? And as that price remains, it means that the government, because it has said this is the price that is supposed to exist in the market, we can't change the price. That is one thing that is going to happen. That price will continuously prevail. The P1 here, no matter what this excess demand will have nothing to do with that particular price. The price will continuously be seen. But there are quite a number of things that are likely to happen. Like one of us has said, the shortages will continue to be there, sure, because as a producer, I'm not willing to offer large quantity because this price is going to lead maybe to losses. Again, another implication that we may talk about could be the low production. Would mean some of the workers in that organization maybe are not hired or they are not incorporated in the production process. Okay, so at the end of the day, you find that the employment opportunities in the country have reduced, and so is the income generation also in the country. We may also talk about something positive. Yeah, the price means the majority are now affording the, you can even see they are demanding larger quantity than what is being offered. It is now lowering that gap between the rich and the poor in the country. But Kenyans, I don't know, we are all Kenyans, and there's a behavior that if I am a producer who has already incurred, let's say, a huge cost, how do I run away from this price that has been set by the government? I am very sure you must have heard of this thing we call holding. You must have heard of these, where the products are hidden only to be sold, let's say, at a later date or in the evening, odd hours, without the knowledge by the government. This is called the black market, where we are doing things illegally, yeah, without disclosing behind the government's knowledge. You're selling the products illegally in the country. Another implication is people run away from this production to join those that have no price controls. For me to survive in the industry, I need to find my survival tactic, and one of it will be to run away from a case where there's a price control and probably producing the commodity or now selling other products that have got no attachment with the government's control. And that way maybe I'll generate my profits. Another thing could be, as you continuously, as a supplier now, maybe you say, I want to remain here. This price may not be attractive, may not be friendly. And when you calculate your profit margins, you realize that they are shrinking every other day. Yeah, the price may not be, of course, promising in terms of maintaining the levels of your goals that you are desiring to achieve, like your profit margins in the market. So there'll be a lot of innovations also as people try to learn away from this business to another. They'll need to discover, maybe other lines, and that can call for maybe somebody undertaking some research work in order to find a good space that can be more profitable in the society. So that is price control, called the maximum price control. I've taken a whole minute to discuss this, but there are quite a number of things that you can see. I have written them down for you. We do this. I'll stop sharing. Listen to my instructions. I stop sharing. I'm resending the link. I'm resending the link for our session. I happen to have picked my account in a funny way. Let me reset so that we continue. I join my my licensed account in a few 1 or 2 minutes, kindly. Okay.